Well, today I am honored to be standing in front of the USS North Carolina. It is a World War II battleship. So this battleship was launched in June of 1940. Afterwards, it was decommissioned, and then it was brought here in 1961 to the Cape Fear River. It is huge. You can't miss it. So when you're driving around the area in Wilmington, North Carolina, you just take a look and you know that this was the battleship that was in World War II. Today, we're going to talk to pretty important people. They're going to tell us all about this battleship. And most importantly, they're going to tell us how you can donate, because this whole place is run off of donations from people like you. So stay tuned and follow me while we go find some people to talk to. So I came walking on the ship and I found Mike. Mike and I work together. We're both realtors at Coldwell Banker Seacoast Advantage. And he is a former Navy pilot. While his heart and soul is in real estate, he actually comes here and volunteers his time for the ship. So Mike, what do you do here when you come?
I'm a volunteer on the battleship as a veteran and former Navy pilot. I've been through extensive training to be an ambassador docent. So
wow.
I'm a guide to visitors of the battleship. So there's a lot of compartments and spaces you can look at. People actually get lost, so I help guide them. I help guide them around the ship, and I answer questions. People have lots of questions. They're always asking.
And how often do you come here?
I'm here about once a week. So in a volunteer capacity. If I had more time, I'd be here more often, but about once a week for 4 to 6 hours typically. So, and I love it. I come out here, it's beautiful like this, downtown Wilmington, the beautiful battleship, and really enjoy every moment. Especially, I enjoy interacting with people and helping them to understand what's going on here and how to get around the ship.
So you're going to give us a tour, right? You're going to take us on a tour so that everyone can see some different places on the battleship, as well as hear some stories from some of the people who run this place?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay,
let's
awesome.
go. So I'm here with Ron Henderson. He's a retired Rear Admiral from the U.S. Navy. He's head of the tour guide program on the battleship. And there are a lot of facts and technical knowledge about the battleship. And there's also some amazing stories that Ron could fill us in on. So Ron, if you could, maybe you could give us a little overview of the battleship and a great story that you know.
Well, this battleship North Carolina is the first of 10 fast battleships that the U.S. Navy built during World War II. She served in every conflict in the Pacific War and earned 15 battle stars. She is the most decorated surviving battleship of World War II. And of course, here as a memorial to the people from the state of North Carolina, the men from the state of North Carolina who fell in World War II, from all the services, Army, Navy, Marine Corps, Coast Guard, Army Air Corps, Merchant Marine. So we serve as that memorial, and that's our main purpose here. The ship is impressive when you come aboard. You get to see this huge warship, and that is physically very impressive. But I think what's even more impressive is some of the human interest stories that go with this ship. We're standing at a spot right here next to this machine gun where young George Conlon was the first man to die in combat aboard USS North Carolina. It happened on the 24th of August, 1942, the Battle of the Eastern Solomons. George was a young kid from Brooklyn. He had watched the ship being built, and he said, when I grow up, I want to serve on that battleship. And so there he was, serving on that battleship, at his gun, and the ship was attacked by a Japanese airplane. Now, some of the guys standing around this area ran. That was easy to understand. It was the first time in combat for all of them. But George didn't run. He stayed at his gun and engaged the Japanese airplane. But unfortunately, one of the bullets from the Japanese airplane struck George in the chest, and he perished right here on this spot where we're standing. George was the first man to die on North Carolina in World War II. Sadly, he was not the last. We would lose 9 more in the various battles in the Pacific War. But the day George Conlon made his ultimate sacrifice was a real change for the crew of the battleship North Carolina. On that day, at that moment, the boys of the battleship became the men of the battleship. And they knew that we were going to win the war. We were going to sail into Tokyo Bay and take the Japanese surrender. The only question was, how many more men, like George, would have to be sacrificed before we reach that goal? So right now I'm standing on the signal bridge of the battleship North Carolina, and a very sad but interesting story took place right where I'm standing. On the 6th of April, 1945, the battleship was engaged in the invasion of Okinawa, and it came under heavy kamikaze attack. The kamikazes were attacking the ship in droves. We were shooting them down as best we could. One kamikaze passed right over the top of the stack and crashed into the sea over here on the starboard side of the ship. There was a friendly U.S. ship in company with us that was also shooting at that Japanese kamikaze. Unfortunately, he didn't cease fire quickly enough, and one of his shells hit our battleship, and 3 of our sailors were very tragically killed in what we would call a friendly fire incident. Now, there was a young man named Richard Fox who was working inside the superstructure of the ship, and he came outside and he saw wounded men all over the deck. In particular, he saw one young man who had been cut open from neck to groin and was bleeding out on the deck, and his organs were exposed. It was a very terrible, bloody scene. But Richard Fox went to the man, gave him what aid he could, put him together, and picked him up and carried that man down to sickbay. Richard Fox didn't know what would happen to that man that he had picked up and assumed that he had perished that day. But 35 years later, Richard Fox was attending a crew reunion on board the battleship, and standing on this very spot, he told that same story about how he had found the wounded man and picked him up and carried him to sickbay and assumed that that man had perished. At that point, a man came out of the audience and said, "My name's Richard Leeds, and I was that man. You saved my life that day 35 years ago. Thank you for saving my life." So I think that's a wonderful story of the compassion for each other that the crew had, how they would look out for one another, and that one man's small action, seemingly small action, could have a huge impact on another man's life.
It is definitely an honor to be standing in this room. So Ron, tell us where we are and all about it.
Sure. This room is really the reason why the ship is here. The ship, as I've said earlier, is the state of North Carolina's World War II memorial, and that's to all the North Carolinians who perished in World War II: Army, Navy, Army Air Corps, Coast Guard, Marine Corps, Merchant Marine. Over 10,000 North Carolinians made the ultimate sacrifice in World War II, and they're listed here in this room. It's the reason we're here. And they're listed by counties. North Carolina has 100 counties, and all 100 of North Carolina's counties contributed blood and treasure to our victory in World War II. They're all listed here by name, so people can come in here if they had a loved one or someone they knew who perished in World War II and they know the county they were in. They could look at them up by county, and the names are all listed here. Additionally, 10 men died in combat aboard this ship. Now, none of them were from North Carolina, so you'd think, well, they wouldn't be in this room, but they are, because the Battleship Crew Association has made a plaque for them, which shows their names, because although they weren't from North Carolina, they did make the ultimate sacrifice in World War II aboard this great warship.
Well, thank you for giving us the opportunity to be in here. This is a very special room.
It is indeed.